Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about clinical presentation of cervical lymph node. Right? See, short cases. Cervical lymph node is a short case for you. In the short case, there is no need to take the elaborate history and everything. Only thing is to take the important points of like chief complaints, inspection and palpation. All the positive findings you have to take. And regarding this special topic like cervical lymph node, this is really a special one and the interesting one. Why? What is the reason of this being interesting is, I think in the previous classes, your professors has discussed about hydrocele, lipoma and everything. In that, the diagnosis will be very clear. If you know the findings of lipoma, you will be sure that it is an lipoma. But in case of cervical lymph node, the diagnosis will be different. It will be ranging from infective origin to the malignancy origin. The causes of this cervical lymph node or causes of cervical lymph node enlargement is different. It ranges from infective etiology to malignant etiology. Now we will see one capsule that like first case capsule C. This like a 20-year-old female patient with multiple swellings on the side of neck involving jugulo-digastric group of lymph nodes and the nodes on the anterior and posterior triangles of neck. See, this is the lymph nodes which are involving the jugulo-digastric and the lymph nodes of anterior triangle and the posterior triangle. Coming to the examination findings of these lymph nodes are of varying consistency. The consistency of these lymph nodes are of different. Some are soft and some are firm. And they are matted together. And the patient also complains evening rise of temperature. So, in the history of this patient, is complaining of swellings in the neck, in the anterior aspect and posterior aspect of the neck, associated with evening rise of temperature. On examination, these nodes, they are of consistencies, varying consistency. That is, some are soft and some are firm and are matted together. Matting is also present. Now, this much of chief complaints and examination points is enough. Now, can anyone tell you what is the diagnosis in this case? What is this? Tuberculosis. It is yes, it is tuberculosis lymphadenectomy or lymphadenopathy. Okay. How do you say that it is a tuberculosis? Tell me the findings which are in favor of tuberculosis. Okay, evening rise of temperature, matted lymph nodes with evening rise of temperature. Right. See, when anyone asks you what is the diagnosis in this case or what is the diagnosis is in this case capsule, there are two types of diagnosis. One is anatomical diagnosis, another one is the functional diagnosis. Now coming to the anatomical diagnosis, what is the anatomical diagnosis in this case? The anatomical diagnosis is lymph node. Why do you say that it is a lymph node? One, it is the location of the lymph node. It is present in the neck, in the triangles of the neck. So one is the location of the lymph nodes, the shape of the lymph nodes and the plane of the lymph nodes. All these are in favor of anatomical diagnosis, that is, it is lymph node. Coming to the pathological diagnosis, what is the pathological diagnosis? It is tuberculous lymph nodes. So the factors or the points which are favorable for tuberculosis lymph nodes are, one is evening rise of temperature, the other one is matted lymph nodes. The third important point is varying consistency. In case of malignancies, you will find only hard consistency, bony hard consistency. But in case of tuberculosis, you will find varying consistency. That are, some are soft and some are firm. So these are the points in favor of tuberculous lymph nodes. So In this case, the anatomical diagnosis, it is the swelling of lymph nodes, and the pathological diagnosis is tuberculous lymph nodes. So what is the anatomical diagnosis? It is lymph nodes. What are the diagnostic points in favor of lymph nodes is shape of the swelling and the plane of the swelling. Cervical lymph nodes, most of the cervical lymph nodes, the plane of the swelling is deep to deep fascia. The plane of the swelling for cervical lymph nodes is deep to deep fascia. Coming to the pathological diagnosis in this case is, it is tuberculous lymph nodes. So what are the points in favor of tuberculous lymph nodes? One is matting of lymph nodes, varying consistency, and zygolodigastric. This group of lymph nodes are the most commonly affected in tuberculosis, and evening rise of temperature. Now, coming to the important points in history. Generally age. In this case, the age of the patient is like 20 years. That is young patients. As we know, the infective etiologies are common in the young ages. That is tuberculosis and syphilis. These are common in the young ages. Similarly, the lymphomas like Hodgkin's lymphomas, these are affect the young age. While the malignancies like squamous cell malignancies, adenocarcinoma, all this will be affected in the elderly patients. And duration of the lymph nodes. If the duration of the complaints is short, like 20 days, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, then it is acute lymphadenitis. Mostly it is of infective origin. Next, you have to see what is the group that is affected first. If the cervical group will be affecting in case of Hodgkin's disease, tuberculosis, whereas if it is filariasis, then the inguinal lymph nodes will affect first. Now coming to the pain. It's not necessary that all the lymph nodes are associated with pain. Acute or infective or inflammatory causes will be associated with pain, whereas malignancies are not affected with pain. Okay, that painless swellings are seen in case of malignant. Acute and chronic infections are painful, whereas painless in syphilis, primary malignant lymphomas, and secondary carcinoma. Then what about fever? There will be evening rise of temperature, which is the characteristic of tuberculosis. Now, what are the important points you have to ask in the history of a cervical lymph node patient? See, while taking the history in case of short case, you have to ask all the points, but you have to present to the examiner only the important points. You should not say all the negative history, but you have to ask the patient all the points to know what is the diagnosis. So in the history, you should not forget to ask about family history of tuberculosis, and also history of exposure to the tuberculosis, history of BCG vaccination, and history of evening rise of temperature, history of loss of appetite and loss of weight. Okay. Now, can anyone tell me what is the history, why it is important to know about the history of BCG vaccination? What is the need to know about BCG vaccination? I will unmute you. I think that will be better. Roll number 104. Please unmute and answer me. 104. The number 104. Okay. Unable to unmute, ma'am. Okay, but Girish told me. Just 1 second. Okay and okay. Okay, we will see. Up to then we will discuss. Let us see. What is the reason to ask BCG vaccination in the history? I will tell the answer later. And next thing, this is regarding the checklist for history. In case of any cervical lymph, what is meant by complications? See, why we have to ask regarding BCG vaccination is one, to know about the immunity status of the patient. If the patient is immune to tuberculosis or not, that is the one of the reason to know about history of BCG vaccination. The other important point is regarding Montu test. You know, if you are vaccinated with BCG, the Montu test will be positive. So it will be inconclusive. So to assess the readings of Montu test, you have to know the status of BCG vaccination. So the importance to know about BCG vaccination in the history is, one is to know about the immunity status of the patient, whether the patient is immune to tuberculosis or not. The other one is to read or to assess the Montu test. So this is regarding the checklist in the history of any cervical lymph node patient if you are suspecting tuberculosis. If you are suspecting a case of cervical lymph node in which the diagnosis is mostly tuberculosis, then you have to ask all these points. What are all these points? One is regarding the family history of tuberculosis. Next, any exposure of the tuberculosis. Next, any regarding the BCG vaccination, evening rise of temperature, and loss of appetite and loss of weight. As all of you all know that tuberculosis is a chronic condition. It's a malnourished condition. So there will be loss of weight and loss of appetite in tuberculosis. This is the checklist regarding the history in case of cervical lymph node if you are suspecting tuberculosis. Okay. Next, regarding examination, what are the important findings you have to see in case of examination? In case of cervical lymph node examination, you have to remember this mnemonic, that is PALS. One is look for primary lesion in the drainage area. What is this primary lesion in drainage area? And the other one, A is look for another lymph node, L is look for liver, S is look for spleen. This is the mnemonic for lymph node examination. Just one second. Unmute avvalenu antunnaru. 104. I am unable to unmute it. Okay, now there is no problem in unmuting, right? I request 104 to just tell me, just repeat what is the importance to ask about BCG vaccination in case of history of tuberculous lymph node patient. Just tell me your name first.
Divya, ma'am.
Divya.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Tell me, Divya. Just repeat me.
BCG lymphadenitis will develop.
BCG lymphadenitis will develop. Next. Did you hear the class? What I'm telling? Are you following the class?
Yes, ma'am.
Then I had repeated the points 2 times. Generally, I repeat more. See, again, I am telling BCG vaccination, you have to ask in the history. One is to find out the immunity status of the patient, and other one is to assess the Montu test, right?
Montu test. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Divya. You can mute now.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
it's a bit different and shallow. Checklist for lymph node examination. In the examination point, you have to see for primary lesion in the drainage area. It is like primary lesion is like, see, if the lymph nodes are in the cervical line, cervical region, then you have to look for thyroid, submandibular region, and also oral cavity. All this will come under your primary lesions. The other A is you have to look for another lymph node. Sorry, is there any other lymph nodes that are enlarged or not? Next, for liver and spleen. Now tell me, what is the purpose of looking spleen and liver in case of cervical lymph nodes? If the patient present to you with cervical lymph nodes, then why you have to look for liver and spleen? We can ask. Chalo, short exam. Yes, good. One is lymphomas, the other one is miliary TB, right? The other one is metastasis. Okay, these three are the reasons. One is for in case of tuberculosis, as we will be suspecting miliary tuberculosis. Very good. One is miliary tuberculosis. In case of malignancies, metastatic malignancies, and also primary malignancies like lymphomas, where you will be finding splenomegaly and others. So these are the important points, or these are the checklists which you should not forget in case of cervical lymph node enlargement. Even if you are suspecting tuberculosis or even you are suspecting malignancy, you have to see all this. See, in the short case, you have to examine and you have to take all the history, but you have to present to the examiner only the important points, right? So you have to look for spleen, for liver, and for any other group of lymph nodes involved, like cervical, axillary, or inguinal. Any other lymph nodes are involved. And what you have to look for the primary lesion also, like thyroid, submandibular gland, everything, right? Next, examinations. As we already discussed in your previous classes, how do you examine? Lymph node is nothing but a swelling. On inspection, you will see the number of swellings, position, size, skin over the swelling, and pressure effects. On palpation, you have to say inspectory findings are confirmed or not, and consistency, as in this case, it is varying consistency. The lymph nodes are matted or not. It is fixity to surrounding structures and the drainage area, and general examination. That is, you have to assess for other lymph nodes. Now, tell me how do you palpate cervical lymph nodes? For that, you have to know what are the different levels of cervical lymph nodes. Okay, see, how do you palpate cervical lymph nodes? Palpation of cervical lymph nodes is very important. To know how do you palpate the cervical lymph nodes, you have to know what are the different levels of cervical lymph nodes, what are the different groups of cervical lymph nodes. Okay, for that, we will see someone has answered. Supraclavicular, zyglo-omohyoid, and zyglodigastric. See, there are different levels of cervical lymph nodes. The classification is of like two types. One is levels of cervical lymph nodes. These levels of cervical lymph nodes, there are 7 levels of cervical lymph nodes. The other one is peripheral and central lymph nodes. One is levels, different levels, that are 7 levels of cervical lymph nodes, which are important in case of malignancy. Coming to the infective or general classification, it is central and peripheral. Coming to this central and peripheral, how do you palpate? The sequence is, first you have to palpate the submental lymph nodes, next submandibular, next preauricular, next postauricular, next occipital. You know what are submental lymph nodes? Submental lymph nodes are the nodes which are below the chin, whereas submandibular are below the mandible. Preauricular are behind, in front of the auricle, and postauricular are behind the auricle, behind the ear. Occipital lymph nodes are at the occipital region. After that, after palpating all these 5 levels of lymph nodes, that is submental, submandibular, preauricular, postauricular, occipital, then you have to go to the lateral distribution of lymph nodes, that is zugulodigastric, deep cervical, jugulo-omohyoid, next scalene and supraclavicular. Next you will go for external jugular lymph nodes, that is superficial lymph nodes. Okay. After examining or after palpating the submental, submandibular, preauricular, postauricular, occipital, then you have to move laterally. Laterally, one is zugulodigastric at the level of digastric, and deep cervical. Next, jugulo-omohyoid, scalene, and supraclavicular. Now you have to proceed to external jugular nodes. మళ్ళీ అందరు రావట్లేదండి, తను ఒక్కటే వస్తుంది. ఇక్కడ నేను ఎంటర్ చేసుకుంటూ ఉండాలా? ఓకే ఓకే. Now I request 037 to unmute and tell me the order. How do you examine or how do you palpate? Zero 37. Zero 37. Are you able to hear me?
Ma'am.
What is your name?
Yes, ma'am.
What is your name?
Praneeth.
Hello.
Praneeth.
Your name is?
Praneeth.
Praneeth. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what is the sequence which
Yes, ma'am.
did. Sequence, how do you palpate the cervical lymph nodes?
Submental.
Right. Submental. Tell me submental.
Submandibular.
Right.
Submandibular. Preauricular.
Yes. Good.
Postauricular.
Right.
And occipital.
Yes, that is the first anterior group. Next, you have to proceed to the lateral. Now, tell me laterally, what are the groups?
Jugulodigastric.
Right, which is you can see on the screen itself.
Deep cervical. Jugulo-omohyoid.
Right.
Scalene. Supraclavicular.
Okay, next you have to proceed to the external jugular. This is the sequence. Okay, now you can mute yourself. Next we'll see. See, this is the next. What are the, how do you palpate? See, palpation of this lymph nodes, you have to palpate with the tips. That is pulp of your fingers. Preauricular lymph nodes, you have to palpate in this region, that is anterior to the tragus of ear, and postauricular, these are palpated behind the ear on the mastoid process, right? This one. And occipital, this is the region of occipital palpation, and this is the submental. Submental nodes are the first nodes you have to palpate. You have to palpate by standing behind the patient. So submental, submandibular, preauricular, postauricular, occipital, next zugulodigastric, deep cervical, zugulo-omohyoid, scalene, and supraclavicular. See, submental nodes, how do you palpate? They are palpated under the chin. The clinician can stand behind the patient to palpate, and it's same as your thyroid swelling palpation, that you have to ask the patient to bend his or her neck slightly forward so that the muscles and fascia in that regions relax. Fingers of both hands can be placed just below the chin under the lower border of mandible. Then the lymph node should be tried to cupped up with the fingers. This is the method of palpation of submandibular glands. This is the anterior cervical. Anterior cervical lymph nodes are the one which are anterior to the sternocleidomastoid muscle. These are the way. How do you palpate the anterior cervical lymph nodes? And this is the palpation method of posterior cervical. The posterior cervical lymph nodes are the one which are behind the sternocleidomastoid muscle and in front of trapezius muscle. After palpation of this lymph nodes, you have to see the skin of scalp, face, ears, neck, nose, air sinuses, oral cavity, nasopharynx, larynx, and also you have to palpate salivary glands, that is parotid and submandibular gland. Why? Because the salivary, now we can ask some questions. 010 010.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your name?
Aruna, ma'am.
Aruna. Tell me, like, tell me some of the conditions of parotid gland diseases, parotid gland enlargement. What are the swellings of parotid gland? I can't hear you properly. Aruna,
Yes, ma'am.
parotid gland swellings. Tell me some of the diseases or some of the swellings of parotid gland.
Parotitis.
That is infection or inflammation, right? But swellings, I'm asking you, what are the causes for increase in size in parotid gland?
Mumps.
Mumps is parotitis, right? Another swellings. What are the malignant conditions of parotid gland?
Parotid tumor.
What are the most common parotid tumor? Have you heard about pleomorphic adenoma?
Yes, ma'am.
So, pleomorphic adenoma is the most common tumor of parotid gland, which will be always confused. There will be one of the differential diagnosis of pleomorphic adenoma is preauricular lymph node. Okay.
Okay.
So, whenever there is a preauricular lymph nodes, you have to always palpate for salivary glands to know what is the cause of whether it is a pleomorphic adenoma or preauricular lymph node. So, preauricular lymph nodes, one of the differential diagnosis is pleomorphic adenoma. Now, you have to examine thyroid gland also. What is this lateral aberrant thyroid? Wait, we'll ask. This is interesting. 020 020 020 what things. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your name?
Bhargavi, ma'am.
Okay. Bhargavi, tell me what is meant by this lateral aberrant thyroid and what is its significance in the lymph nodes? Lateral aberrant thyroid. What is meant by lateral aberrant thyroid? Okay, then tell me what is the most common malignancy of thyroid gland?
Papillary carcinoma, ma'am.
Papillary carcinoma. And what are the other malignancies of thyroid gland?
Follicular carcinoma.
Okay. Now tell me what is the spread? How do this papillary carcinoma spread? Lymphatic or blood?
Lymphatics, ma'am. Through lymphatic.
Yes. Papillary carcinoma spread is through lymphatic. Now tell me what is meant by this lateral aberrant thyroid? Have you heard about this lateral aberrant thyroid? Yes or no?
No, ma'am.
No, right. See, in case of thyroid malignancies like papillary carcinoma, there will not be any swelling in the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland will be, obviously, it will be normal. Only the lymph nodes will be enlarged. That is, metastatic deposits in the lymph nodes with normal thyroid. This is mostly seen in case of papillary carcinoma. As the lateral group of lymph nodes are enlarged, this is known as lateral aberrant thyroid. Lateral aberrant thyroid is seen in case of thyroid malignancies like papillary carcinoma, where the thyroid gland will be normal and you will see metastatic deposits in the lymph nodes. Right, Bhargavi? Are you clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
what is meant by lateral aberrant thyroid? Hmm?
Metastasis from the
Hmm? From the
papillary.
right? Metastasis in the lymph nodes with normal thyroid gland.
Thyroid tissue to the.
Okay. Metastasis
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the lateral lymph nodes with normal thyroid gland is lateral aberrant thyroid. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You can move yourself now. So, in the palpation, you have to palpate salivary glands like parotid gland and submandibular gland to know about the preauricular lymph nodes and everything. And also, you have to examine thyroid gland because the only lymph nodes will be enlarged in case of lateral aberrant thyroid, which will be seen in case of papillary carcinoma of thyroid. Next, you have to examine breast and also examine the chest and examine the abdomen and genitalia. Why? What is there any lymph nodes that are enlarged? Now we can ask. Zero 1 9.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your name?
Bhavani, ma'am.
Bhavani, tell me what is the importance of like why you have to examine breast, abdomen, and genitalia in case of cervical lymph node swelling? Why you have to see breast, abdomen, and genitalia? Is there any reason? Hmm?
It,
Hmm?
metastasis in case of
Hmm?
carcinoma of the breast.
Okay, where do this metastasis occur to which lymph nodes? Which cervical lymph nodes? Okay,
Clavicular.
huh?
Supraclavicular.
Yes, good. Which supraclavicular, right or left?
Left.
Why only to the left?
Don't,
Hmm?
don't know, ma'am.
Don't know. Now tell me what is meant by virtuous nodes or Trocheus sign? Hmm?
Don't,
Left supraclavicular enlargement is also known as virtuous nodes or Trocheus sign. This is because mostly the thoracic duct, the drainage thoracic duct, it lies over the left side. So its communication with the jugular veins. So that side of left supraclavicular region, lymph nodes are enlarged. Okay.
yes, ma'am.
This enlargement of left supraclavicular nodes is also known as virtuous nodes or Trocheus sign, which you will be seen in case of metastasis of like stomach carcinoma and also breast cancers. Okay then. Yes, good. 014. Papillary carcinoma of thyroid, which shows nodes palpable left supraclavicular lymph nodes, right? You can mute yourself now. Now, regarding some theory regarding your lymph nodes, these are the peripheral lymphoid organs connected to the circulation by the efferent and efferent lymphatics. These are oval or bean-shaped nodular formation. These are composed of dense accumulation of lymphoid tissue of size around 2 to 20 millimeters on an average of 15 millimeters in longitudinal diameter. Roughly there are about 800 lymph nodes in the body. 800 total, the lymph nodes in the body is 800, and around 300 are located in the head and neck. So head and neck comprises majority of lymph nodes, that is about 300 lymph nodes are present in the head and neck, and overall in the body it is like 800 lymph nodes. The functions of lymph nodes, this is like presentation of antigens to the lymphocytes, regulation of protein content of the efferent lymph, and also filtration of bacteria and antigens. Mainly the lymph nodes are associated with the immunity purpose and lymphs. Okay, what is the plane of this cervical lymph nodes? I have already discussed the cervical lymph nodes mostly are deep to deep fascia, and the groups of lymph nodes which are superficial to deep fascia are submental nodes, occipital nodes, facial nodes, external jugular nodes. These groups are superficial to the deep fascia, but majority of lymph nodes of neck are deep to deep fascia. Some of the exceptions are submental, occipital, facial, external jugular. Okay, what is the plan of action for finding out the source of enlarged lymph nodes? If you find some enlarged lymph nodes, what's the next step you have to do? The next step is you have to search for primary lesion. That is in PALS, the first one is P, that is primary lesion in cervical lymphadenopathy. You have to start from above. That is, you have to examine your oral cavity, nose, ear, next lymph, salivary glands, thyroid, breast, abdomen. You have to start from above and come downwards. What is lymphadenopathy? Lymphadenopathy is that lymph nodes which are abnormal in size, number, or consistency, and is often used as synonym for swollen or enlarged lymph nodes. It is classified as localized lymph nodes. That is, if it is only the cervical lymph nodes or only the inguinal lymph nodes are involved, then it is localized lymphadenopathy and or generalized lymphadenopathy. The other one is generalized. Generalized is if two or more non-contagious areas, that is two, one is axillary, one is cervical and inguinal. If two or more groups are involved, then it is generalized. If only one area is involved, that is localized. What are the causes? What are the different causes? What are the causes of lymphadenopathy? We'll ask. Zero, 1, 4. So tell me,
Inflammatory swellings.
what is your name?
Hemant, ma'am.
Hemant, good. You are answering most of the questions. Now tell me, what are the causes for lymphadenopathy?
Malignancies,
Malignancies,
inflammatory swellings,
inflammatory swellings. Tell me the examples for inflammatory swellings. Inflammatory.
tubercular lymphadenitis,
Tubercular lymphadenitis,
acute lymphadenitis,
acute bacterial, other than tuberculous, bacterial lymph nodes. Okay.
autoimmune diseases,
That is other etiology. Okay. So these are the different causes for lymph nodes. That is, one is infective, next one is malignancy, autoimmune. Okay, we'll see. One is inflammatory, that is acute or chronic lymphadenitis, tuberculosis, filariasis, syphilis. Okay. Next one is hematological. In hematological disease, you can mute yourself. Hematological, that is Hodgkin's disease, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Next, leukemias also. This is hematological condition. The other one is immunological. That is in case of AIDS, SLE, systemic lupus disease, rheumatoid arthritis. Next, neoplasms also like carcinomas and sarcomas. Lymph nodes, I have already explained you that the classification of lymph nodes, this is of two types. One is peripheral lymph nodes and deep cervical lymph nodes. Deep cervical lymph nodes include zygolodigastric nodes, duclo-omohyoid nodes, whereas peripheral lymph nodes include again superficial and deep, that is submental, submandibular, preauricular, postauricular, occipital, anterior cervical and superficial cervical, whereas deep include pretracheal, paratracheal. This is one type of classification, that is peripheral nodes and deep cervical nodes. Deep cervical nodes include juglodigastric and juglo-omohyoid. The other type of classification which is important for you and which is also important in case of malignancies is different levels of neck nodes. There are 7 levels of neck lymph nodes. Level 1 is submental and submandibular. Level 2 is upper jugular. Level 3 is middle jugular. Level 4 lower jugular. Level 5 is posterior triangle. Level 6 is anterior or central compartment. Level 7 is superior mediastinal, right? So total there are 7 levels. 1 submental submandibular, 2 upper jugular, 3 middle jugular, 4 lower jugular, 5 posterior triangle, 6 anterior or central, and 7 is superior mediastinal. See, for this you have to know about the different landmarks. See, you all know this. What is this muscle? This is digastric muscle. This is anterior belly and this is the posterior belly of digastric. This is the omohyoid muscle, that is superior, and the inferior belly of omohyoid. This is sternocleidomastoid. This is the trapezius. The triangle which is anterior to the sternocleidomastoid is anterior triangle, whereas the triangle which is posterior to the sternocleidomastoid is the posterior triangle. Now this is the hyoid bone, this is the mandible. Okay, now coming to the levels of lymph nodes, the submental. Okay, level 1, upper jugular, lower jugular, middle jugular and lower jugular. See, this is submental, upper jugular, lower, middle and lower. Next posterior, anterior. Next will come the mediastinal. So again, level 1 is submental, submandibular. Level 2 upper jugular, middle jugular, lower, and 5 is posterior, 6 anterior, 7 is superior mediastinal. See, this is the submental and submandibular. This is level 1. Level 2 upper jugular, middle, lower. Level 5 will be the posterior triangle. Level 6 will be the anterior. Level 7 will be the mediastinal. Zero, 3, 5. 035, just repeat what are the different levels of lymph nodes. 035. Tell me what are the different levels of lymph nodes? How many levels are there and what are the different levels? Zero, 035. 040. 040.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what are how many levels of lymph nodes?
There are 7 levels, ma'am.
Good.
Level 1 is submental and submandibular.
Right.
Level 2 is upper jugular, and level 3 is middle jugular. Level 4 is inferior jugular. I mean lower jugular.
Good.
And level 5 is posterior triangle of the neck. And level 6 is anterior compartment.
Right.
And level 7 is superior mediastinal, ma'am.
Good. Right. Now, what are the causes for matting of tuberculous lymph nodes? Why there is what are the different causes for matting of lymph nodes? One is tuberculous lymphadenitis. The other one is acute lymphadenitis, late stages of lymphoma, and late stages of metastasis neck. Or in these conditions, you will see matting of lymph nodes like tuberculous, acute lymphadenitis, late stages of lymphoma, and late stages of metastasis. In this lymphoma and metastasis, in the late stages, you will be seeing the matting. Now, what is the cause for matting? See, generally the organism like Mycobacterium tuberculous, this will reach the lymph node from the primary focus via lymphatics. The lymphatics are distributed along the periphery of the lymph nodes. From there, it will reach the subcapsular sinus. The subcapsular sinuses of adjacent lymph nodes are involved subsequently, and this will produce the matting. See, this is the cross section of lymph node. In this cross section, this is the capsule of lymph node. Underneath the capsule, there is the subcapsular sinuses and subcapsular space. Through the efferent lymphatics, the microorganism will reach the subcapsular sinus, and this will produce the inflammation and inflammation of the capsule, and the subsequent adjacent lymph nodes will be getting matted, which will produce matting in case of tuberculosis. Matting in tuberculous lymph nodes is due to the involvement of subcapsular sinus. Now, what is the primary focus for cervical lymph node tuberculosis? That is tonsil. Tonsil is usually the primary focus for the cervical node tuberculosis. Then this will lead to zugulodigrastic node enlargement. Okay. We'll see now. 047. 047.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me, what's your name?
Hello, yes, ma'am.
Tell me what are the different stages of tubercular lymph nodes? How many stages, pathological stages of tubercular lymph nodes? 047. What is your name? Hello. Hello.
Hello, 4 stages.
4 stages. 4 or 5? Okay, tell me what are the 4 stages then? Tell me what are the 4 stages?
First one is the growth stage, ma'am.
Huh? Growth stage.
Immune control stage.
Tell me what are the pathological stages of tuberculous lymph nodes?
5 stages, ma'am.
Hmm?
First one is no. First one is no periodinitis.
You are able to see
The
on
lymph
the
nodes
screen.
are enlarged.
Next.
The lymph nodes are enlarged.
Hmm?
There is no matting of lymph nodes, ma'am.
Okay, after that, that is
There is no matting of lymph nodes.
okay, that is stage 1. Next stage 2. So I have to keep next slide for you.
No, ma'am.
Huh?
Lymphadenitis.
Okay.
Next one is lymphadenitis.
Okay.
Next one is periodinitis.
Hmm?
Next one is cold abscess, ma'am.
Hmm? And the last stage is,
Colar stud abscess.
what is your name?
Colar stud abscess and the sinus.
What is your name?
Priyanka, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Priyanka, ma'am.
Okay, Priyanka. So total they are the
So
pathological.
totally 4 stages, ma'am.
Hmm?
5 stages.
So pathological.
No matting of lymph nodes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, you can mute your.
Second one is lymphadenitis.
Hmm.
Thank
See, pathological stages of tuberculosis lymph nodes are total. There are 5 stages. In some books, it will be like 4 stages. Okay, these 5 stages in the stage 1, that is only lymphadenopathy. That is, lymph nodes are enlarged and solid, but there will be no matting or no periadenitis. This periadenitis, that is inflammation around the lymph nodes, is also one of the reason for matting. One is the organism will enter into the subcapsular sinus and it will cause periadenitis. This is the reason for matting. So in the 5 stages, stage 1, the lymph nodes are enlarged and solid, but there is no matting of lymph nodes. That is no periadenitis. And the stage 2 is the lymph nodes are large, firm and matted together. That is, they fix it to each other because of periadenitis. So this is the reason for matting. One is entering of the organism into the subcapsular sinus and it induces the inflammation changes resulting in periadenitis. So stage 1 is lymph nodes enlargement, that is lymphadenopathy. Stage 2 is periadenitis. Stage 3 is stage of cassation and cold abscess. The lymph nodes will break down and liquefy and the pus will collect beneath the deep fascia. A fluctuant mass will be palpated without any inflammation over the skin inflammation, any overlying skin inflammation. In addition, the nodes without softening will also present, which give rise to varying consistency. Some of the nodes will be in soft consistency, that is because of cold abscess. Some of the nodes will be without softening, like firm in consistency. This will result in varying consistency. So stage 1 is lymph nodes enlargement. Stage 2 is periadenitis, matting is present. Stage 3 is stage of cassation and cold abscess. Stage 4 is stage of collar stud abscess. That is the deep cervical fascia. As I already told you that the plane of lymph nodes is deep to deep cervical fascia. So in case of stage of collar stud abscess, the deep cervical fascia is eroded and eventually resulting in the escape of pus beneath the superficial fascia, which is in more space, that is laborious space. This results in collar stud abscess. And the stage 5 is stage of sinus and ulcers. This pus will eventually burst through the skin, resulting in discharging sinus or ulcer. That is stage 5. See, this is stage 1. There is inflammation and enlargement of lymph nodes. That is lymph nodes enlargement, lymphadenopathy. That is stage 1. And stage 2 is periadenitis and matting, periadenitis. That is matting. And stage 3 is cold abscess formation. softening, liquefaction. That is stage 3, cold abscess. Stage 4 is collar stud. Here the deep fascia is eroded and the pus enters into the below the superficial fascia into the laborious space. This is collar stud abscess. See the shape of this abscess. This is like the collar stud. So this is once the deep fascia gets eroded, collar stud abscess is formed. Once the superficial fascia is eroded, then this result in the sinus formation. So stage 1 is lymph nodes enlargement. Stage 2 is matting. Stage 3 is cold abscess. Stage 4 is collar stud abscess. Stage 5 is sinus formation. We will ask. $54,054. 054. 054. Roll number 054. 054. Okay. 062. 062. 054062. Roll number 062. 064. Sorry, 065. Roll number 065. So you are just logging, not listening to the class, I think. You have to give absence for this numbers. Zero 065. 068. 'Tell me 068.
Ma'am.
What's your name?
Satvika, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what are the different stages of tuberculous lymph nodes?
Periadenitis stage. Enlarged stage.
How many stages are there?
5 stages, ma'am.
Tell me stage 1.
Stage 1, lymph nodes are enlarged and solid. No matting, ma'am. No matting of lymph nodes.
Stage 2.
Stage 2. The lymph nodes are enlarged and periadenitis is present, ma'am.
Okay. Stage 3.
Stage 3.
After matting, after periadenitis, what will happen?
Abscess.
Yes. What is that abscess?
Collar stud abscess.
Collar stud abscess. Before collar stud abscess, what is there?
Ma'am.
One is cold abscess, third stage is cold abscess, next fourth stage is cholesterol abscess because of
Yes, ma'am.
in the deep fascia. And what is fifth stage?
Sinus formation.
So repeat again. What are the different stages of tuberculous lymphadenitis?
First is there is no matting, ma'am. Lymph nodes are enlarged and there is no matting.
Right.
Second stage, periadenitis is present, ma'am. Lymph nodes are enlarged, firm, and periadenitis is present.
Hmm.
Third stage of sedation and cold abscess is present, ma'am.
Hmm.
Fourth stage of collar and stud abscess is present. Collar stud abscess is present. Fifth stage, sinus formation is present.
Now tell me, what are the causes of matting in tuberculous lymph nodes? Why matting occurs in case of tuberculous lymph nodes?
Acute lymphadenitis and
See, I'm not asking what are the various causes of matting. What is the reason of matting in tuberculosis lymph nodes? Why does matting occurs in tuberculous lymph nodes?
inflammation.
Inflammation, that is due to periadenitis. Okay. Because of this periadenitis, there will be matting of lymph nodes in tuberculosis. Right. You can mute yourself now. So what is this collar stud abscess? As you all know, stage 3 is cold abscess and stage 4 is collar stud abscess. That is, the pus is formed as a result of breakdown of lymph node, which will subsequently erode the deep fascia. The pus, the lymph node which is below the deep fascia, once this lymph node becomes liquefied, it will break. It will be, as a result of breakdown, this pus will erode the deep fascia and come to the space beneath the superficial fascia. See, this is the cold abscess which is below the deep fascia. As there is a lot of pus in the lymph node, it breaks up and it erodes the deep fascia and enters into the plane below the superficial fascia, resulting in collar stud abscess. This is collar stud abscess. The shape is like collar stud. Okay. And comes to space beneath the superficial space. And this is fascia. This is superficial soft swelling, which is nothing but pus and is communicating with offending lymph nodes situated deep to the deep fascia. So, in case of collar stud abscess, below the deep fascia, there will be pus and it will be communicating through the deep fascia into the superficial fascia. The node, the connection and the superficial soft swelling together will take the shape of collar stud. Okay, the node, the connection and superficial soft swelling. See, this is the node and this is the connection and this is the superficial soft swelling. All this will appears like or will take the shape of collar stud. This is the lymph node and this is the connection and this is the superficial swelling. This will look like the collar stud abscess. Now, what are the different types of tuberculous lymphadenitis? One is acute type, the other one is caseating type, the other one is hyperplastic and atrophic type. So total there are 4 types of clinical types of tuberculous lymphadenitis. Clinical types are 4 types. One is acute, which you will be seeing in the infants. The inflammatory signs may be there and may resemble like acute lymphadenitis, acute type. The other one is caseating type. The commonest type is caseating type, seen in young adults with a typical matted nodes with a caseation and cold abscess. All this you will be seen in young adults, that is caseating type. And the third one is hyperplastic type, where the lymphoid, here the resistance of the patient is more and lymphoid hyperplasia is more predominant than caseation, and the nodes are usually firm and discrete. Hyperplastic type, where there is good resistance. And the fourth one is atrophic type, which you will be seen in elderly, where the lymph nodes will undergo natural involution. So the clinical types of tuberculous lymph nodes are 4 types. Acute type, seen in infants, resemble acute lymphadenitis. The second one is caseating type. This is the common type, young adults, matted type. Okay. And the third one is hyperplastic type, where there is lymphoid hyperplasia and good resistance is seen. And the fourth one is atrophic type, which you will see in elderly patients. Roll number 073. Roll number 073.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good. Tell me, what are the clinical types?
And, ma'am.
What are the different types? What are different clinical types of tuberculous lymph nodes? How many clinical types of tuberculous lymph nodes are present? Clinical types. Just now I have explained clinical types of lymph nodes, tuberculous lymph nodes.
Acute lymphadenitis, perilymphadenitis without matching,
Just
cold abscess,
huh? How many types? First tell me, how many types of clinical lymph nodes? Tell me, what are the different clinical types of lymphadenitis, tuberculous lymphadenitis, clinical types? How many types are there? Roll number 073. Zero 073. Tell me different clinical types of tuberculous lymphadenitis. Right. 078. Roll number 078. Roll number 078. Tell me. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
I am able to hear. Tell me, what are the different types of clinical types of tuberculous lymphadenitis? Roll number 078. Are you able to hear me? Zero 078. What are the different types of, what are the different clinical types of tuberculous lymphadenitis? See? Zero 084. Roll number 084.
ma'am.
Tell me, what are the different clinical types of tuberculous lymphadenitis?
There are 4 types, ma'am. First type, acute,
Good.
which is seen in infants, ma'am, and inflammatory signs are present.
Very good.
Second is caseating type, ma'am, which is the commonest type,
Right.
in which mated nodes are seen with caseation, ma'am. Third type is hyperplastic type, ma'am.
Okay.
Here, lymphoid hyperplasia will be predominant when compared to caseation, ma'am.
Right.
Fourth type is atrophic type, ma'am. Seen in elderly patients, where lymph nodes undergo natural involution, ma'am.
Right. What's your name?
Preeti, ma'am.
Good, Preeti. Chalo. Now, how will you investigate and confirm your diagnosis? Like, how do you evaluate this case? One is in the blood test. Like in case of total WBC, the lymphocytes will be elevated as tuberculosis is a chronic condition, and ESR will be raised. These two are significant in blood picture. One is the lymphocytes will be elevated and ESR will be raised. Next one is X-ray chest. If the cervical tubercular lymph nodes is associated with pulmonary tuberculosis, then there will be features of pulmonary tuberculosis in chest X-ray. But most of the cases, these cervical lymph nodes are primary. They are not secondary to pulmonary tuberculosis. So X-ray chest, you will not see any findings. The other one is tuberculin test or Mantoux test, which is not that much significant nowadays. A positive test has no diagnostic value. Why? Because even in case of BCG vaccination also, there will be positive test. So this is the reason why you have to ask the regarding BCG vaccination status. And however, a negative test is useful for excluding tuberculosis. After this, like one is blood tests in which ESR is elevated. Next, total lymphocytes are elevated. Next, chest X-ray to rule out existing or coexisting pulmonary tuberculosis, Mantoux test. Next, you have to go for FNAC of lymph node. Next, but however, FNAC biopsy is far superior to FNAC of lymph node. If you take the biopsy of lymph node, you can send it for both pathology to see if the caseating necrosis and for microbiologist also. And also aspiration of cold abscess for AFB. These are the investigations like FNAC of lymph node, biopsy of lymph node for pathology and microbiology. Next, aspiration of cold abscess for AFB. Now, whether you have to go for FNAC or biopsy. If you are given these two options, FNAC and biopsy, we mostly prefer biopsy only. Biopsy is superior to FNAC. Why? Biopsy of intact lymph node is always superior because the pathologist can study the architecture of the lymph node. He can study the complete architecture of the lymph node. That is not possible with FNAC because FNAC is studying only cells, that is cytology, whereas biopsy is histology, it is studying the tissues. In case of FNAC, if it strikes the granuloma, then it is well and good, you will get the positive report. If it does not strike the granuloma, then the report will be negative. So it is always advisable to take the biopsy as biopsy is superior to FNAC. What are the important points to remember while taking cervical lymph nodes for biopsy? One is you have to take the entire lymph node, that is with intact capsule. The capsule should be intact while taking the biopsy, intact capsule. And if possible, always it is possible. If possible, we have to take two nodes. One is for pathologist. Pathologist is for caseating necrosis. The other one is for microbiologist. And send the lymph node for pathologist in formalin, whereas for microbiologist, we send it in normal saline. For microbiologist, for AFB culture, for pathologist, for studying the caseating necrosis. Okay. The other one is after, if it is positive for tuberculosis, you will start anti-tuberculosis treatment. But can you start anti-tuberculosis treatment empirically without pathological or microbiological report? No, you should not start empirical treatment. That if you have the suspicion of that it is tuberculous lymph nodes, you should not start empirically ATT. You have to start ATT only after confirmation that you should have the evidence either in pathological report or in microbiology report showing it is tubercular etiology is important to start ATT. So what is the treatment of choice in a proved case of cervical lymph node tuberculosis? It is anti-tuberculous chemotherapy. That is triple drug or 4-drug regimen. Now tell me, roll number 93, 95.
Hello, ma'am.
Roll number 95, what's your name? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, ma'am.
Roll number 95, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the treatment of choice for a proven case of cervical tuberculous lymph nodes?
Anti-tubercular
Therapy. Okay, anti-tubercular therapy. Now tell me, what are the indications for surgery in case of tubercular lymph nodes? Mostly the treatment of choice for tubercular lymph nodes is medical therapy, that is anti-tubercular therapy. Now tell me, what are the indications for surgery, when you will do surgery in case of cervical lymph nodes of tubercular etiology? What are the indications for surgery? Roll number 95.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what are the indications of surgery?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we'll see in this slide. Wait. So what are the indications for surgery in cervical lymph node tuberculosis? If a case of cervical lymph nodes is proven to be tubercular etiology, then the treatment of choice is anti-tubercular therapy. Now, when do you do surgery? What are the indications for surgery? In certain indications, like one is biopsy. This is the most important indication, that biopsy, you will advise surgery. The other one is excision of group of nodes if it is not responding to ATT. When it's not responding to conservative therapy or medical therapy, then we will go for excision. The other one is excision of offending lymph node in case of cholestatic abscess. The other one is persistent sinus and excision of abscess if it is not responding to aspiration. So these are the indications of surgery in case of cervical lymph nodes. One is biopsy. The other one is if it is not responding to anti-tubercular treatment. The other one is excision of abscess if it is not responding to aspiration, persistent sinus and cholestatic abscess. Now roll number 95, just repeat what are the indications for surgery in case of tuberculous lymph nodes.
Yes, ma'am. Biopsy, most important indication. Excision of group of nodes if not responding to anti-tubercular treatment. Excision of offending lymph node in case of cholestatic abscess. Excision of abscess if not responding to aspiration, and persistent sinus, ma'am.
Very good. Now tell me, what are the diagnostics, what are the investigations for cervical lymph nodes? This is regarding the treatment. One is medical treatment, ATT. If not certain indications, we will go for surgery. Now tell me, what are the investigations for the tubercular cervical lymph nodes?
Yeah, complete blood picture, ma'am. ESR will be elevated and lymphocytes will be elevated, ma'am. Chest X-ray and tuberculin test, Montauk's test we will perform, ma'am. And lymph node biopsy for pathologist and microbiologist will be sending, ma'am.
FNAC or biopsy? What do you prefer?
Biopsy, ma'am.
Okay. Next.
Fine needle aspiration cytology, FNAC we will perform, ma'am. Aspiration for cold abscess, AFP we will be sending.
Okay, good, good. You can mute yourself now. Now, what are the causes for persistent sinus? This is the stage 5 in case of pathological staging of tuberculous lymph nodes. What are the causes of persistent sinuses? Secondary infection, fibrosis, necrotic, calcified material replacing the lymph node. Okay. Causes for persistent sinus, secondary infection, considerable fibrosis, necrosis, and calcified material replacing in the lymph node. See, if the cervical lymph nodes are not responding to anti-tuberculous drugs, you have to suspect for atypical mycobacterial adenitis. Okay, when the cervical nodes are not responding for anti-tubercular drugs, then you have to suspect atypical mycobacterial adenitis. Now, what is the treatment of cold abscess? The treatment of cold abscess is aspiration. You should not do incision and drainage because this incision and drainage will result in sinus formation. So, aspiration should be done in the non-dependent part. So, coming to the treatment of cervical tubercular lymph nodes, the treatment of cervical tubercular lymph nodes is anti-tubercular therapy. And there are certain indications of surgery like biopsy when it is not responding to the medical therapy, when it is not responding to the aspiration, persistent sinus. What is the treatment for cold abscess? The treatment for cold abscess is aspiration, and the aspiration has to be done in the non-dependent part. If you do aspiration in the dependent part, it will result in the fistula and sinus formation. So this is regarding your tubercular cervical lymph nodes. We will take some question answers. And then you can point it. Roll number 112. Roll number 112. Roll number 113. Okay. Anyhow, we have come to the end of the class today. Today's class is regarding the short case of tubercular cervical lymph node. And what are the important points you have to ask in the history? And what are the important points regarding the examination and different types of or different levels of cervical lymph nodes and classification of cervical lymph nodes? And how do you evaluate? What are the investigations and what is the treatment? This is regarding the cervical lymph nodes of tubercular etiology. In the next class, we will be discussing about the cervical lymph node of malignant etiology. Now you can ask any doubts. If there are any doubts, you can ask now. Any doubts you can ask. Okay, if there are no doubts, we can end today's session. Thank you.